So when I say in German or in Swiss German, can I give you feedback? There for the other person, clear. Oh, now shit is coming. Wow. Right? So,
I love it. Do we really need more feedback training? Welcome to another episode of Relearning Leadership, where we explore a specific leadership challenge and break it down to help improve your leadership, your organization, and just possibly your personal life. I'm Pete Behrens, and today I'm joined by Frank Fitzlaff, an Agile leadership journey guide based in Zurich, Switzerland. He works as an internal coach with Swisscom and an external coach with Flowdays. Now, we know feedback is a core principle of agility. Without it, we really don't know where and how to pivot. Yet this landscape is a pretty interesting one, and what I'm hopeful you'll learn from our discussion is why we actually need more practice. So I expect you'll enjoy my talk and discussion with Frank. Welcome to the show, Frank.
thank you, Pete.
Well, it's great to have you, and I just want to lay it on the table. Do we really need more feedback training?
Yeah, thank you, Pete, for that question. This is really an awesome one. Whenever I engage with people as agile coach within the companies, then I normally get the answer, no, we are fully fine, feedback, everything's okay, we don't need that. And then as soon as I start digging a little bit and ask a few more questions, I get then the impression, and I know, yes, we all have to train. And after many years in that field, I see feedback as a muscle. So it's something which we have to train all the time. We need to constantly think about it and have it alive and experience it. Otherwise, it gets smaller and doesn't have that strength anymore. So I guess everybody has from time to time the need or would benefit from getting and enjoying some feedback training.
Yeah. I love that metaphor, right? The strength training. We often think about something that's acquired is done, right? I acquired knowledge, I'm done, or I've acquired a particular skill, and I'm done. I can ride a bicycle. And you're saying feedback's different than that, right? Feedback's different than that bicycle training where, okay, I know how to do that. It's actually something that deteriorates or that falls away if we're not exercising it. That's an interesting way to look at it.
Yeah. So I think sometimes the giving and receiving feedback is not so natural. If we do it maybe in a environment where we are at home, so we're very close to family, that's easier. We are very candid, we're straightforward, boom, out of it. But as soon as we are in a professional environment, it's not an easy thing. Sometimes it's harder, sometimes it's easier, but it's not something which is really natural.
Hmm.
As example, when I engage with teams and then I ask them, hey, what about feedback? They say, yeah, that's what we do. We are working agile, we of course are professionals in giving, receiving feedback. And then I just ask, what was the last behavior within your team you improved because of feedback, which you got in a retrospective? And then sometimes it gets very quiet. And, just like we tend to lie at ourselves regarding feedback. But then when we start engaging with people and we get also some like impulses and we learn how to deal with feedback, then it's also fun and it's a great growth opportunity. Feedback is perfect growth opportunity.
I mean, in one sense, you can think about feedback is like continuous. I can even see our dialogue has feedback, right?
Mhm.
We are responding to each other. You've got some verbal or some nonverbal, cues that are going on in terms of that feedback. How you respond to questions and answers is feedback. So I imagine to some degree a team's thinking, like we live in feedback. Like we're talking about things all the time. So take us that one step further. Like what's the difference between this and maybe a team even, entering in that space of, hey, that you screwed up that field, or hey, we built that presentation a little bit incorrectly. I mean, that's feedback.
Mhm.
Take us a little deeper than that. Like what's the next step down that really kind of maybe we're missing?
Mhm. If you have within a team a situation where you have a very high psychological safety, then it's easy to also go then to the next step and to be candid to each other and to I already I saw in teams that they were extremely blunt to each other and just said stuff directly, which is completely not according feedback rules, but it works perfectly. And in other teams, it's not the case.
Yeah.
So how do you deal with that? And so then that's the moment where you need to have like training kicking in. Otherwise, feedback when we say we give once a year or twice a year feedback to each other, and it's kind of an artificial round, then it's just like hogging animals in a zoo. So we're just like very nice, we are very comfortable, and everybody is just like affirmed, yes, you do it well, and that's it. But that's not the real power of feedback. If we really care about people, we have to be like honest, critical, candid. That's what we need then as a team. And this is the next step. The next step sometimes needs training. So there are good opportunities you can do to get to that level, but it's something which is not coming by itself.
Yeah. I mean, you mentioned the maybe the biggest one that maybe we see is the lack of self-awareness, the lack of, we've got the cognitive or confirmation bias. We see what we want to see, we hear what we want to hear. Is that the biggest challenge when it comes to maybe the hurdles for feedback, or maybe touch on maybe what you see as maybe some of the large challenges when it comes to giving and receiving feedback?
So that's definitely one part. So that you need to have a certain self-awareness, that you even realize how important feedback is. So you can hear the theory about feedback and how it will improve the behavior in the team, and it strengthens psychological safety and so on. That's one thing to hear it. And then the next one, yeah, but what does it mean for me? So how do I get there? And the biggest hurdle there is then that you not only hear it theoretical, but that you really try to experience it. And how do you try it? Within Swisscom, as an example, we have a concept of a feedback dojo. So that's we really go to the teams, and we have like some exercises where we train giving, but not only giving, but also receiving feedback, how to do it with the words, with the behaviors. So that I say, first I observe something, then this I interpret, and then the next thing is that's what makes me feel like blah, and in the end I liked, and something I wish. So then just first to like give the people the confirmation that they can address a sensitive topic in a way that it will not offend or hurt the other person at all. And that you need to train. So then we bring up artificial business situations and let them experience it. One is the observer, two are receiving feedback, and then share how it was. Was it also honest? Because I mean, I might go through all these steps like an engineer, and I say it's A, B, C, D, and that does not work at all. So it has to be with the right tone, with the intention. It has to be honest. The body language needs to be appropriate, and so on. So then we try this out. And then afterwards, the teams realize, oh, it's kind of quite difficult to do that. What's in the next step? And then we find some small exercises where they can do. As an example, after each weekly or bi-weekly session then they have someone giving feedback if like the session was according their values, rules, and so on. So that's in a small step, and then it starts growing and can do other exercise. It's really something you need to train. For some people, it's easier, and for others, it's important to do, but it needs training.
Sounds like a feedback spin class at your local gym.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Kind of spin class, and you need to repeat it regularly. Exactly.
Exactly. What was interesting, and when you were talking about that, it's almost more about me and how am I set up? How am I? What is my mindset? What is my body language? What is my tone? What is my presence? There's almost, I often think, I'm giving feedback, it's about the other person. But you're almost putting a mirror on here and saying, no, it's really about you and how
Yeah.
you're presenting. Can you maybe touch on that a little deeper? Because that's
Yeah.
interesting.
Okay. I think that's very important, a bit depending on the situation. So if you are in a very comfortable situation where you know the people, each other, as an example, it's kind of a one-to-one which regularly happens every week, and you have a high good understanding of each other and so on, then it's not so important if something is not really right and so on. You can just tell it and explain it. But if you would like to give feedback to someone you're not like working every day with, and maybe it's a sensitive topic, there you need to really like prepare yourself, so that maybe to even write it down what you would like to say, and then you just go through it, and how will I do it, maybe using it in a catalyst conversation way, where you like first say, okay, let's align what we will talk about to be sure that the other person really is in the mood to receive feedback, and then you give it, but then you need to give it right away, directly, boom, not like talking around it, because it's very difficult. The other person is waiting for it, and then try to get out there by having a common agreement, and that's something which you really need then to prepare. So I think it really depends on the situation where you want to give feedback. And sometimes it's not so important that like body language and everything really fits in, and sometimes it's extremely important. And you just need to be aware of the situation, and to be able to play with it. I think that's important to make people realize. Yeah.
Remember Brene Brown saying, "Clear is kind," right? So
Mhm.
how can you be direct, honest, authentic, without being a jerk, right? Without being
Yes.
rude or opinionated. And it sounds like what you're saying is you train them to kind of present this from a purely, hey, I'm seeing and I'm feeling and I would appreciate, right? That's it's all these words that are respectful and
Yes.
authentic in the way
Yeah.
you're presenting it. Is that a fair way to say it?
Yes, absolutely. And if we do, as an example, team feedback sessions, it's something which also I do on a regular basis. That means like a team coming together and then thinking about what should we improve as a team, that each person, her, himself, then has like a better, a more effective way to like perform and so on. So just it out of me, what does it mean for the team? And then we have exactly situations. We then present those things on a whiteboard, and people, and there I really listen. And whenever somebody is not using the right words, like I observe or I saw, or it's something which is like the most the biggest failure people do is then somebody told me that, so it's not direct from that person directly. Then I immediately stop, because I know it goes completely wrong. I say, no, please just focus on what did you observe, and please tell it in a way that even start the sentence with something simple as every sentence you start with I observe. Just then it goes in a direction that nobody is really then hurt in that session. And in another situation, it's natural. Teams, for them, it's really no problem, and it flows. It goes well. No interaction is needed. It really depends on the situation. But it can be massive destruction if you have somebody giving with good intention a feedback in a way somebody cannot handle. It's really bad.
I know. So you're talking about the downside of opinions, the downside of hearsay, the downside of presenting biased information or perspectives that maybe are loosely coupled. I'm wondering about the other side of this, though. One of the things that we see is not enough appreciation,
Mhm.
not
Yes.
enough positive feedback, not enough
Yes.
thank yous, not enough great job, kudos.
Yeah.
I'm wondering about that, because what we hear is the negative feedback hits the brain much harder than the positives, right? So you need
Mhm.
more positive feedback. Yet
Yeah.
we don't we don't really have a structure for it. We don't really have a very good place to put it. I'm curious on your thoughts on the positive side of feedback.
Yeah. I think this is extremely important in a team, not only in a team, also across teams, that whenever you have an occasion that you can thank somebody because did a good thing, not just like for nothing, then people realize it, that it's just like a thank you because of a thank you. But it's really, if it's honest, and a thank you, or just like saying, hey, that was great what you did, or I learned a lot, or that's a thought I didn't have before. Thanks a lot for sharing it. Very simple things are so powerful. It's so powerful. It's more powerful than money and just like salary increase or whatever. This is really the essence where, like, why I think many people go to work, because you want to have like an appreciation of what you do, and somebody just like realizes you're there and you're doing a good job and tells it to you. So this is so important. How to like trigger that? I try to go by good example and just doing it myself, and just trying then to influence others to also do it, and or just like asking, hey, that was something which we really benefit as a team. What do you think? And then just like push a bit that people get out of themselves, because if you get a compliment which is honest, you like it, you love it, and for me it was easy to share a compliment to somebody else, and they also like it. It's a positive circle, so you influence to each other, and you like to work with that person. It's very, very simple.
Yeah.
And that's so important, especially in large companies where you might work with somebody and then 2 weeks later you work with somebody else. So just like to get in a really collaboration, it's so simple. Just say thank you if there's something, if there was something which had been done well.
Yeah. Well, one of the tips or tricks I use sometimes is if I get a kudos or a thank you or well done, maybe it's a keynote speech, or it's something.
Mhm.
I'll often use a technique of asking a question like, so what, thank you, and what did you like about it? Or thank you, and what was it that caused you to say that? So it still can be a learning moment, which I think is really cool, right? Even positive feedback loops, I think if you're prepared to just ask a question, can be a really interesting way to
Yeah,
dive into that a little bit more.
yeah. There's even another aspect to it. Something which I don't know how it is in the US culture, but like in Switzerland, we tend to like talk positive feedback down. So somebody makes a compliment, and then we tend to say, "Oh, okay, it was not. We really like it, but well, it was not so important. No, it's okay." No, no. And I really, I some years ago, I said, "Okay, I stopped doing that. I just, whenever I get a compliment, I just say thank you very much.
Good.
That's it. Just to say thank you for a compliment." And doing that also in a team context, then you realize the other person which gave the compliment feels much more appreciated than when I say, "Oh, that was nothing. It's self-understanding. I do that all." Just to talk it small. No, no, no. Just like say thank you very much. That's something I really enjoyed. You recognize that. Thank you. That's it.
Yeah.
Mm.
That's that the humbleness character, right? Of just, oh, it was nothing. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're talking about how to kind of get better, right? Go to class on giving, receiving feedback a little bit. But what about when you can't prepare, like that surprise that something happens and
Mhm.
something gets triggered? It could be a comment, could be something that a customer says, could be a meeting goes wrong, right? Something surprises you.
Mhm.
Is there a way we can be prepared, or is there a way we can be better at those kind of feedback loops when we don't have a chance to kind of practice and get ready for it?
Mhm. Um, Maybe something there is that you try, and that's also something which is hard to do because you need to control yourself. You try to not like react immediately, right? So if something just like triggers me, it's kind of the trigger, the fright, the flight, freeze, fight mode that is triggered somehow in myself. Then just saying no, just like wait, and then maybe just like let it go. And after the meeting, go to that person and check, did I really understand it right? Was it something which really was meant as it should trigger me or not? To connect with that person instead of reacting immediately, and then it's like boom, 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 go back and forth, and then you're maybe in a meeting with 10 people, and 8 people feel very uncomfortable because there's a kind of a strange situation evolving, and it's escalating, and at the end it's no benefit for nobody. So if there is a chance to just like stay calm, to just like yes, okay, yeah, let's talk about it later or something, just like to park it for a moment, and then to go into a one-on-one with that person. I'm a good experience with that.
Yeah, I think David Rock says you got about he does some neuro leadership things and says you have a few milliseconds to kind of hijack that emotional adrenaline that gets kicked off when something surprises us and triggers us back. But yeah, the concept of breath, the concept of space, the concept of time is so critical, and just being able to just take a moment.
Yeah. And it's very hard to find the right line, because sometimes it's really important that you react immediately and stop it. Otherwise, it gets worse, right?
Yeah.
But sometimes you have to, and sometimes you should not. So when is which situation is difficult to find the right balance.
Yeah. It's interesting. I've got a book on my shelf here by Edgar Sheen. He talks about giving and receiving help, and I love the way he twists that. Right, it's not feedback. He calls the book helping. And I love that notion, that idea of thinking about this as wanting to help or others wanting to help versus, I don't know, feedback often has that negative kind of bad vibe in music kind of notion of, it shut your ears down because it is hurts. Versus maybe our language isn't quite right. It's like, I mean, this is English, feedback. Does the same apply in Switzerland and Germany in terms of
That's even worse, because the term feedback is English, right? So when I say in German or in Swiss German, can I give you feedback? There for the other person, clear. Oh, now shit is coming. Wow. Right? So,
I love it.
Yeah, and it's a very difficult situation. And if I would say I'd like to offer help, and they're like, oh, well, that sounds interesting, because this you can even do in German, right, or in Swiss German. But talking about feedback, that's it always has this notion of there's out of band situation, and we need to talk serious stuff now, and now I'm really prepared to just like just shut down everything and just be in like a survival mode.
It's time to hijack the language, and maybe we start changing. And it's interesting how much that plays into culture. We think about words like failure, words that end up having feedback. Like, these are judgment words. These are right and wrong words. These are good and bad words. And words around learning, words around helping, words around understanding. Just using different language around your team can likely change the culture and change the reception of the way we talk to each other.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And it's just like one part of the whole team process, so that people act predictively, that they act kind, that they like honor human beings, stuff like this, which makes the whole package then around it. And the feedback part is an important piece to that, because if you only once have a situation where within your team, or let's say your boss, gives you a complete nonsense feedback, not because of the content, but in a way that it like hurts you, then the trust is gone for a very, very long time. So just like how to rebuild then the trust if whenever you get in contact with that person, which is your manager maybe, and you're afraid of, oh, what's happening now? It could be such a situation as we had before. I was completely surprised, not prepared, and then boom, there was this message coming. Is this again such a situation or not? So just to act consistently, to prepare people, to be kind. I think it's very important to have a good also leadership relationship to each other.
Yeah. So maybe in closing, is there one thing you might recommend our watchers, listeners to try to be better, to maybe retrain themselves or at least build a muscle on feedback?
Yeah, I think that's the one which you mentioned already. Just like give positive feedback. Start with that, and see how well it feels. It feels so good. If you give it, I mean, for the person which gives the feedback, it feels so good. If it's honest, it's a perfect thing to start with. And then you start like growing up this trust amongst each other. And then you can also go to like more critical pieces. It's like in teams, we do something like the compliment shower. So we just say, okay, now let's shower somebody with all the compliments we have.
I love that compliment shower.
It's such a simple thing to do, but you cannot get out of it. I mean, if I shower you with compliments, you feel good, even that you know it's something which was now everybody says a good thing, and there's so much other stuff as well, but you will feel good, and just make each other feeling good. That's a great thing to do.
One of my favorites is an appreciative retrospective. And so basically we just walk around one-on-one and mix with people and say one thing you're appreciative about that other person. And just the power of positive feedback loops and the context of what you're thankful for, what you saw, how you saw them, how they showed up is incredibly powerful. And so I love your language, the shower of gifts that comes from it. So thank you for sharing that. Well, Frank, I just want to say thank you for sharing your insights, and thank you for being one of the guides in our community and for continuing to spread this wealth of knowledge and understanding.
Thank you. Thank you very much for the compliment, Pete.